spoken to a few City fans recently, and I feel like they would have been more worried about this. There's always like a typical City. We're far better than United, so we're going to lose the derby. But I think a few of them would have been more worried if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had been given the job just for this one particular match, because Ole had Pep's number at times, and also he's more of a vibes man, isn't he? So I think City will be more confident going into this game with Michael Carrick in charge than they would have been if Solskjaer was in charge. But what can City expect from United this week? Will there be a dramatic shift in the team from the sort of limp displays under Darren Fletcher? Will there be like 2 at the back, 8 at the back?
There won't be 3 at the back. It'd be fair to say. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously going to be helped by the fact that Ahmad and Brian Mbeumo are back. Probably their 2 best attackers this season. But it's hard to know. I'm kind of with you that I think maybe they'd have stood a better chance with Solskjaer. And, I wasn't dead against the idea of Solskjaer getting it. I mean, the one of the reasons they've gone with Carrick is that he is more of a hands-on coach than Solskjaer. When Solskjaer was at United for those 3 years, he was a manager surveying it from his office window. I think he has coached elsewhere, but when he was at United, this structure now was non-existent. And whatever you think of this structure now, at least there is a structure. Like there wasn't really then. It was Solskjaer and Mike Phelan and then Ed Woodward. And it felt like Solskjaer and Phelan were kind of self-appointed manager / director of football, which was probably not a good combo. But it felt like Solskjaer was more the organiser and the motivator, and Carrick and Kieran McKenna were doing a lot of the hands-on coaching. And obviously United have now got a system where they're looking for a head coach. So Carrick fits better. But the one thing I would say is, with 17 games to go, I mean, how much coaching is there to be done? Yes, they're going to have a lot of time on the training ground, but it doesn't really feel like a time to be introducing, complicated pressing structures or patterns of play. There's an argument that what you do need is just a bit of a vibesman who's going to play a simple 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, tell all the players they're amazing, and pick up a lot of momentum. And maybe Carrick can do that. I mean, the one thing with Carrick was his start at Middlesbrough mid-season was amazing. When he took over from Solskjaer in November 2021, United were in a mess. They just lost 4-1 to Watford. He beat Villarreal, beat Arsenal and drew at Chelsea. So I guess he's shown he can do that. But, they've gone for more of a coach. I think that's probably wise. And like I say, I think there's more chance of Carrick proving that he could do it long-term than there is Solskjaer. But yeah, for this weekend, you probably do want a vibesman. And it's hard to know what to expect. Like I imagine it would be a 4-2-3-1. It sounds like, I'm not going to confess to have watched a lot of Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick, but it sounds like it became kind of sterile domination in a way, like a lot of possession, but the build-up play wasn't quite there. Maybe with better players at your disposal, then it works. It works better. You sometimes see that with coaches, that when he's got better players, it might work better. Yeah. But also in 3 training sessions, I think it's probably hard. That's going to be hard to do. And I was going to say, B, it's hard to do against City, but I guess this is a different... I was going to say it's hard to play that way and control possession against City. But this is a City team that has changed this year, hasn't it?
It has, but it's interesting you use the word momentum in that answer, because momentum was kind of lost. Like, we're recording exactly a week on Wednesday afternoon from when, City drew with Brighton for the 3rd draw in a row, 3 draws in 7 days to start 2026. And a colleague tweeted rather glibly about how well City had done to extend their unbeaten run. And it was like, it was like gallows humour, because not only had they blown 3 games, but they'd also lost Ruben Diaz for 4 to 6 weeks. They'd lost Guardiola probably for the season. Semenyo, who not first choice, but an option on the wing for 6 to 8 weeks. So big injuries, and they were piling up, and Haaland was exhausted, and Pep kept picking the same players. and it kind of felt like, oh, this has suddenly kind of crashed, and we don't know how to get it back on course. And it there didn't really seem to be a way in the week that has followed for them to do that, but they have, like, remarkably. Scoring 10 goals will kind of do that, especially when Erling Haaland gets none of them. And the win at Newcastle must be one of the most impressive wins since I can't remember. Like, really, really good. Newcastle obviously had defensive injury problems of their own, but like, if you'd said to City any time recently they'd go to St James's Park, where they lost 2 months ago, and they would have a centre back pairing of Max Allain and Abdelkader Kusanov, and Nico O'Reilly would play six for the first time since 2024, and they'd win 2-0, you'd be laughed out the room. And yet they did it, and it was convincing. And they're suddenly heading into this derby where the stakes are really high because they've dropped points in the last 3 league games, but like, with the confidence that they can go anywhere and beat anybody in their own patch. Like, they've beaten Real at the Bernabeu, which was another huge result, statement result. But the performance at Newcastle was fantastic, and it's always difficult going to Old Trafford. It doesn't seem like Old Trafford's being particularly kind for United to play in front of at the minute, but City will be going there sort of on a real high.
Yeah, and they've got a new secret weapon as well, haven't they? Who United would have quite liked to have as well, along with half the Premier League. Antoine Semenyo, who was not earmarked to play left wing back at Manchester United, it should be said, but has made a pretty impressive impact at City, hasn't he? It feels like it's hashtag narrative for Semenyo to do something on Saturday.
Yeah, he's had an amazing start, and again, his performances have not been amazing. He did pretty much well. He did very, very little in the first half against Exeter, and then in 15 minutes in the second half, he got an assist and a goal, and then got taken off. He did very little in the first half against Newcastle. Lewis Hall was tremendous, both up against Semenyo and Foden, often at once, just coming out of every situation with the ball. But then again in the second half, he just pops up, and it's quite funny that Semenyo is kind of seen as this direct runner, sort of to move towards this new City. And yet last night pops up and scores a goal that Raheem Sterling scored about 1,000 times under Pep City. So, in these 3 games where they've dropped points, they needed someone to put the ball in the net, and he's done that, and he's doing that. And to do that already is pretty good going. And yeah, I can see him having his say in the derby. Whether he starts or not, I'm not sure, but he has given them the boost that they needed, really, and especially because there was all the sort of fake furore around the cup tie element of him playing against Newcastle.